Hey everyone, it's Zach Wright, founder of Grapevine Software. Now, mainly whenever we share posts on Grapevine or my personal page, we're talking about the features, the platform, and we've been very transparent since day one. We've been building in public and we've been talking about what's going on in Grapevine, what happened, the good, the bad, the ugly, lessons learned, so on and so forth. But today in this video, what I want to talk about is why we're building Grapevine and why I'm specifically so passionate about Grapevine. And let me just start here. When I started working 100% remote, it was in 2020, and it was the height of the pandemic, or the pandemic was just starting. Like many of us, we were kind of forced in this situation. And what I realized was I really loved working remotely. And I was lucky enough to be part of an amazing team and be on the leadership team that was so transparent. We kept everybody close knit. But what I also realized was there were three specific things that were happening in the remote setting, which is also uh, happening in the flexible workspace as well. So those things were disconnected teams. And let me be clear on that. Disconnected teams don't necessarily just mean that every single individual is disconnected, but it also means that a lot of departments go into their own cliques or silos. And one of the reasons that we see that happening is because, obviously, teams are more likely to work within their own section or their own department. So that's one reason. But the other reason is the second problem that I saw, which were fragmented tools. And those fragmented tools were kind of the reason why department silos occurred or team silos occurred, right? And what I mean by that is, let's take for an example. If the team that I'm talking about is in sales and they are inundated in Salesforce, that's where they're going to live. Or if they're inundated in outreach, that's where they're going to live. And guess what? Whenever they're building those pieces of information, I was director of sales operation and sales engineering. And so we had tons of SOPs, we had documentation, we had processes that we had to follow. All of those were stored either in Salesforce or something like a Google Drive. I think we were a Microsoft team at that time. So in Microsoft, but the difficulty was that you had to go to all these different places to be able to get that information. And the other problem was that that information was secluded to that department, right? Now, you might have access to it, but you don't have context to it. And so that's what I mean by disconnected teams, in one sense of the phrase, that these department silos were happening from fragmented tools. And then I've kind of already touched on it, but because of those tools that are fragmented and specific for each department, or maybe a set of departments instead of the entire company, they produce scattered information. And then this is where it really clicked for me. At one point in time, intranets were huge. They were the way that companies informed people. They were the way that employees understood what was going on, whether that was an event coming up, in person, remote, virtual, whatever the case is, that's how they understood it. They had documentation. Like you think about a SharePoint, right? And what I realized was that a lot of these tools are trying to be decentralized. And that's where the conflict comes in. And you add on top of that, that remote workers are not in the same location. And in some cases, many cases, they're not even in the same time zone. So are those tools that we've been using for the longest time equipped to match our needs for the way that we work today? And what I realized was that the answer was no. In our pitch, I even say that we've been piecing together shitty solutions. For example, even though it was an amazing team, we had SharePoint, we had Salesforce, we had Marketo, we had OneDrive, we had obviously email. All those things were connected in Microsoft, But then we also had Lattice, we had Greenhouse, we had, what was the other tool? There was a customer success tool. We had Zendesk, we had financial tools, and all of this just made the way that we search and found information as a collective so much difficult, so much more difficult. And I kind of became the go-to person for a few things in the organization, even though I was director of sales operation. Before that, I was strategy staff executive, and I ran our OKR program. And every single quarter, even though I shared videos, I shared documents, I shared meetings with the teams and in our all hands company calls, I always had somebody reaching out to me. But imagine in the way that we work today, somebody being I'm on the East Coast. Let's imagine that somebody is in India or Pakistan or UK, and they're 6 to 9 to 10 hours ahead of us, or Australia even. It becomes very difficult to serve those people. And then that's where the isolation starts to set in. And anytime that an employee feels isolated, they feel less connected to their teammates, they feel less connected to the company, and they're more inclined to leave because they don't have that sense of belonging. And so I started thinking about this. How can we solve for this problem? And people know that the tools that we have out there today are really not satisfactory for the solution. And again, it goes back to this decentralization of tools. And so what we're building at Grapevine, our virtual office platform, is a way to take those decentralized or tools and put them into one centralized platform, or your central nervous system for your company. And not only that, we're also looking at how can we connect employees on a deeper level, right? So we are solving for disconnected teams and isolated employees. We're solving for fragmented tools that produce scattered information and build these department silos. And we're doing it through a software agnostic lens. And that is so important, because if you think about this, SharePoint, it has to live in SharePoint to be able to be added there. Our information hub, and even today, our company resources section under the HR portal page, you can add anything in there and it becomes searchable. And not only can you add it, you can share it easily in the same platform. And we're only going to get better as we go. So the reason that I'm so passionate about this is because my background is in strategy and operations, but I'm very passionate about how we operate, how companies interact with their employees. And my background in schooling is actually psychology with an emphasis on organizational psychology. So if we wrap all those things together, then we can actually create the office for the future. And that's what we're trying to do at Grapevine. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, because we are overcoming a huge challenge that a lot of companies face, large or small, right? And so I wanted to make this video because I feel like I haven't done a great job at explaining why we're building Grapevine. And so I hope this puts it into perspective. If this resonates with you, don't hesitate to reach out to me, because this is a big problem that is costing your team a lot of time. It's costing you as a leader or the founder of the organization a lot of money. And in some cases, it's adding to the attrition. So all those things together are terrible for productivity. So I'll be done right here. I didn't think that it was going to go this long, but if this resonates with you, reach out to us today. I would love to show you how Grapevine can help you overcome those challenges of isolated employees and disconnected teams, fragmented tools, and scattered information, to put it all into a centralized platform to keep your team connected, informed, and aligned. I hope to hear from you soon, and thanks so much for watching.